Hello, honor students. How are you? Let's today speak about The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. Mary Ann Yvonne, known by her pen name George Eliot, was an English novelist, poet, journalist, translator, and one of the leading writers of the Victorian era. If you want to learn more about the Victorian era, please revise the video for that. She wrote 7 novels: Adam Bed, Silas Marner, Romeo, Felix Holt, The Radical, Middlemarch, Daniel, The Ronde, and The Mill on the Floss. The Mill on the Floss, one of the greatest, and that was described as Eliot's most autobiographical novel for its portrayal of a complex relationship between a brother and his sister. This great novel, The Mill on the Floss, deals with the story of Maggie Tulliver and her older brother Tom. They lived in Dorricott Mill with their father, Mr. Tulliver, the owner of the mill, and their mother, Mrs. Bessie Tulliver. Childhood. The story begins when Maggie was 9 years old. Her childhood was characterized by her relationship with Tom and with his classmate Philip Wackham. Tom. Maggie was fond of Tom, but they had really different characters. Maggie was clever and a dreamer. On the contrary, Tom was more pragmatic and close-minded. These deep differences between them would be the cause of their future breach and moving away. Philip. Maggie met Philip during a visit to her brother's school. Philip was deformed, but he had got a brilliant and gentle mind. They immediately got on well, but their relationship would be broken off by the economic ruin of Mr. Tulliver, caused by Philip's father, Mr. Wackham. The economic ruin? After Mr. Tulliver had lost the economic cause against Mr. Wackham, he fell in ruin till he had to sell all his property, including the mill, to Mr. Wackham. After the trial, Mr. Tulliver fell gravely ill, and as a result, Tom, who was just 17 years old at this point, entered in the world of business to pay his father's debts and eventually to buy again the mill. Family decay. In the meanwhile, Maggie took care of her weak father and witnessed to her family's decay. Tom was always having this longer away from home for business, becoming more and more silent than usual. Mr. Tulliver was only interested in paying the debts, and poor Mrs. Tulliver never again worked quietly and contentedly after losing her little treasure in the cell. Womanhood. In this agonizing period, Maggie, on the edge of womanhood, when the mind is ordinarily full of new hopes, and new dreams, secretly saw Philip during his walks until Tom discovered them, and she had to renounce to her love for Philip. Vengeance and death. A year later, Tom had earned enough to pay all his father's debts, but after the vengeful day, a long time deserved, Mr. Tulliver died at the night next to his family. The flood. At this point, we can consider that the climax, while Tom hadn't forgiven her yet, Maggie's moved to a friend's house, but her troubles hadn't finished yet. After a week of pouring rain, the river flooded, submerging the surrounding fields. At this point, in the midst of the flood, Maggie managed to reach the mill with a boat and to rescue her brother. But they finished in the too violent current where a wide mass across the stream was coming towards the boat. Conscious of their near death, Tom finally forgave his sister and took her in his arms. The huge mass sank the boat, but brother and sister had gone down, locked together, never to be parted. If you think that you learned something new today about the novel, one of the greatest, The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, thumb up. Drop a comment if you have one. Share with others. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you can get the latest by Miss Karima. There would be 2 more parts to learn more about the characters and the settings and the theme of Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. See you then. Goodbye.